Hello, I'm Ken Arscott, your narrator. This training session is designed to teach security officers how to wear and care for your security officer uniform. Although the security guard license is not a part of your uniform, it is required to have it in your possession when wearing the uniform. In many states, if you carry a baton or a handgun, they require additional licensing. The clothing the person wears, and especially the uniforms, have been found to have a powerful psychological impact on those who view it. The uniform of a security officer conveys some authority of the person wearing it. It is common nature for a person who sees another person to subconsciously search for clues about another person so that they can evaluate them. One of the primary clues of that evaluation is what the person is wearing. Businessmen and women dressed in business attire give off a sense of professionalism. The police officer and security officer uniform is a powerful indication that the wearer has authority, capabilities, and status. Obviously, the police officer has a lot more authority. Another benefit is when a person wears the uniform, people who see them tend to be more cooperative with his or her requests. People also tend to curb their illegal or deviant behaviors when a police officer or a security officer is visible in the area. When a person encounters a stranger, the person seeks clues from the stranger's appearance, which can reveal things about the stranger. Clothing, and in this case the security officer uniform, serves as a mental shortcut for people to identify their status, legitimacy, authority, and occupation. Studies have shown that psychological appearance, including clothing, is the factor most people use in developing a first impression of someone. If a security officer is wearing a crisp uniform, he or she conveys authority and will always have a better first impression than a sloppy, messy security officer. When people in a shopping center are in need of help, they scan the crowd looking for that distinctive uniform of a security officer. On the other side, criminals usually curb their unlawful behavior when they spot a uniformed security officer in the area. A uniform means a set of standard clothing worn by members of an organization while participating in that organization's activity. Uniforms also depict unity. It has been this way since the days of the Roman Empire. So why do security companies require their security officers to wear uniforms? Here are 5 reasons which make the uniform an integral part of your work culture. Industry demands. The security industry is required to provide a professional service while their officers are on duty. Clients demand that the security officer look more united and eager to serve the client and their customers. Therefore, the role of the uniform becomes very important. When a security officer is wearing an authoritative uniform, the clients and customers will have more confidence in the capability of the security officer. When you work for a security company, you don't have to choose again and again what clothes you need to wear to work. Another benefit is your company most likely provides their officers with uniforms, which in turn saves them money. When all security officers are wearing the same uniform to the workplace, they share a feeling of belonging. Uniforms bring everyone to the same platform, no matter how rich or poor he or she is. The uniform gives them a feeling of equality amongst all other security officers wearing the same uniform. When you wear the uniform, you find yourself becoming more caring, not only for the people you meet, but for your fellow officers as well. You're part of the team. Your security officer uniform makes you stand out in a crowd so that you can easily be recognizable and makes a statement regarding the service that you're providing security. Wearing your security officer uniform not only gives you a sense of pride, it also has an imposing effect on others. Most of the time, it's positive, and for those predisposed to criminal acts, it's negative. So you see, just the presence of an officer in a uniform can change the mood of the people around you. The majority of security officer uniforms in the United States have a paramilitary appearance and are generally dark in color. Is this because of tradition? Is it only for the ease of identification by citizens? I say it's because the uniform actually has a psychological influence on how security officers are perceived by the public. Wearing your security officer uniform on most posts are mandatory. Each security company has some sort of uniform code, like shirts of a particular color and design, company arm patches, etc. There's nothing more depressing to a client than seeing a sloppily dressed security officer protecting their business. This is especially true when the security officer is highly visible to their customers or tenants. Your uniform immediately makes a statement telling everyone who you are and what you do. This is true for almost every uniform out there. For example, you look at this man and you immediately know that he's a United States Marine. And this person is a fireman. And this person is a medical professional. The same holds true when you're in the security industry. When you see this man, you know immediately that he's a security officer or a police officer. Throughout the United States, security officers and police officer uniforms are similar. It's understandable that a lot of people have a hard time distinguishing between the two. By the way, that's the primary reason that some security officers get into trouble, impersonating a police officer. You are a security officer, not a police officer. With that said, your job is just as important to your company and its clients. To make matters more confusing, every state, city, and county law enforcement agencies' uniforms are different. And within these law enforcement agencies, there are units with additional style uniforms. For example, you have the basic uniform, then there are traffic officers who usually wear white hats, the motorcycle officer, and the SWAT teams, to name a few. This all may appear to be confusing, but as you know, regardless of which uniform they are wearing, everyone knows that they are police officers. The security guard industry is no different. Even though there are many varieties of uniforms, everyone knows that they are security officers. Security uniforms let everyone know what the security officer's purpose is. And that purpose is to prevent crimes, look for safety hazards, ID screening, metal detection screening. Remember earlier when I said that when people see a security officer in a uniform, it mentally makes an impression? Hopefully it's a good impression. You could give a bad impression if you sit down on a chair in public view and people know you should be patrolling. They'll assume that you're not doing your job. So, always take breaks wherever you cannot be seen by the public. Another situation that might give the same impression is when you check off duty. It's best that you have a civilian jacket that you can put over your uniform. If it's in the summer, wear a civilian shirt to work and change when you get there. This will also keep your uniform shirt from getting wrinkled. The definition of deterrent means to prevent something from happening. Yes, the uniform is a deterrent. Uniforms and marked patrol cars are deterrents. For example, when a police officer is present, criminals do not commit crimes unless, of course, they're not playing with a full deck. When a lost child sees a police officer, he or she knows that they can go to him for help. When a patrol car is on the highway, people slow down. When a police officer tells people not to walk in a certain area, he doesn't have to say, "I'm a police officer and you can't walk in this area." He just tells them that they can't walk in that area. They already know who he is and that he has the authority to enforce what he says. Although a security officer does not have the same authority as a police officer, the security officer uniform makes a similar statement. They are there to help. They are there to help deter criminals. They are there to direct parking into buildings and screen people trying to access buildings, etc. If you're at a gate checking IDs, you don't have to tell everyone that you're a security officer checking IDs. They know that when they see you. If someone needs directions in a shopping center and they see a security officer in a uniform, they know who he or she is and will have the answer. Now that we've established the purpose of the security officer uniform, let's go over a few other aspects of the uniform. When you put on your uniform, put it on thinking that you're going to meet some very important people, and those people will have a direct effect on your future. The truth is, you will and they will. You'll be meeting your supervisors, customers, and the public. The uniform articles you wear depend on your post assignment. In many cases, you will dress different when working outside than you do when working inside. The same is true for the seasons. In cold climates, you might wear a parka or a heavy jacket. In the warmer climates, you would wear a long or short sleeve shirt. Working outside on a rainy or snowy day means that you might need a raincoat or poncho. Putting on your uniform isn't just a matter of getting dressed. You need to follow the proper guidelines so that you can obtain the maximum impression. Here is a security officer dressed in a full uniform. Let's start with the hat. There are several hat styles used in the security industry. Standard police hat, trooper hats, and baseball caps. The better the hat, the more professional you will look. Compare a security officer in a baseball cap to one in a trooper hat. Who commands more authority? You be the judge. When wearing a standard police hat or a trooper hat, the rules are the same. The hat should be placed squarely on the head with the front base of the headband 2 fingers above the eyebrows. There are 2 reasons for this. 1, it purports a sharp military look, and 2, it will make you hold your head up. If you hold your head down, even slightly, you won't be able to see where you're going because of the bill or the brim that blocks your line of sight. The additional benefits is that when looking up, you naturally straighten up and tend to square your shoulders, giving you an alert posture. Speaking of hat bills, most standard security hats have high gloss bills. It's very easy to smudge them with your fingers. To prevent this, pick up the hat like this. Put your forefinger on the top of the hat just over the cap plate with your thumb and middle finger to the left and right of the cap plate. Pinch the hat, pick it up, and place it on your head. Try to resist the natural impulse to grab it by the bill. If you lose or misplace your hat, it may be difficult to find it because they all look alike. Most uniform hats have a plastic pocket inside the cap. Write your name, ID number, and company telephone number on a piece of paper and insert it inside the pocket. Your uniform shirts should be made of wash and dry material, which reduces ironing. Actually, when the wrinkle-free shirt comes out of the wash, it's not totally wrinkle-free. You should lightly go over them with an iron to take out any rough spots. Even better, send them to the dry cleaners. Just like the hat, all security shirts in your company are identical except for sizes. To be sure that you know what shirts are yours, take a black Sharpie pen and on the tail, put the first initial of your last name and the last 4 numbers of your Social Security number. This is especially important if you take them to a dry cleaner that other security officers use. When you wear the shirt, all the buttons on the shirt should be buttoned. The only exception is if you're wearing a short sleeve shirt. All the buttons on the short sleeve shirt should be buttoned except the top button at the collar. The button line should line up with the belt buckle and fly of the trousers. Uniform shirts have 2 breast pockets that have either button-down or Velcro-style flaps. To look professional, always keep them closed. Never walk around with the pockets open and never stuff them with a bunch of bulky items. You're a security officer, not a maintenance man. You should carry your notebook and a pen in one pocket and your security officer pocket manual in the other. Incidentally, remember to retract the point of the pen or replace the cap back on it before putting it back into the slot in the flap. If you don't, you'll get ink all over your shirt pocket. In most cases, the ink will not wash out and it ruins the shirt. This may require you to pay for a replacement. All security companies have a rank structure: corporal, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, and so forth, each of which require rank insignias to designate who they are. Cloth stripes are sometimes used on sergeant and corporal sleeves halfway between the shoulders and the elbows. The problem with cloth stripes is, if the sergeant gets promoted to lieutenant, they have to remove the stripes, and that often leaves an imprint. To combat this, many companies are using metal insignias. These metal insignias for sergeants and corporals should be attached to the collar like this. For lieutenant and above, the metal insignias should be attached to the collar or on the shoulder epaulet over the cross stitching. Company arm patches should be placed on the top of the sleeves, centered where your sleeve is joined to the shoulder. Your company and state laws will determine if you have to wear one patch or two patches. The kind of badge that you wear is usually determined by the jurisdiction that you're licensed in. If you're issued a metal badge, treat it like the bill of your hat. Try to keep your fingers off of it. In some jurisdictions, only cloth badges are allowed. Uniform ties are usually solid colored and have a four-in-hand knot. Ties should always be a clip style. If someone were to grab your tie, trying to pull you off balance, all they have is your tie, not you. The tie should lay over the buttons with the point of the tie just above the belt buckle. Most uniform trousers are also made of wash and wear materials, but if you want that sharp crease, you'll need to press them with an iron. Unlike your everyday trousers, uniform trousers do not have cuffs. The reason is that in addition to looking military, there's a safety factor to consider. While on patrol, you're less likely to catch your trouser legs on protruding objects. Most security companies use solid, dark-colored trousers. Some have gold, red, or blue stripes running down the side of the trouser legs. Having stripes also helps in identifying that person as a security officer. Trousers should be worn at your waist with no drape over the shoes. The front cuff line should be about 1/4 of an inch above the top of the shoes. The rear cuff line should be about 1/2 inch down over the top of the heel of the shoe. This is especially important if your trousers have stripes. This is because if the trouser legs are too low, the stripes will not be straight and it will look sloppy. Trouser pockets should never be filled and cluttered with bulky items. Only carry your wallet and perhaps a handkerchief in the rear pockets. Small flat items such as personal keys and change can be carried in the side pockets. Walking around with your hands in the side pockets gives the appearance that you're being nonchalant and lazy. More important, if you were attacked suddenly, you may not be able to protect yourself fast enough. Remember, you're in the security business, not in the tour guide business. If shoulder patches or cloth badges become soiled, before you wash them, take an old toothbrush and scrub them with mild soap before they go into the washing machine. Most companies use the standard black garrison belts with square metal buckles. Garrison belts are wider so that they can support the equipment you're required to carry. When fastened, the buckles should be at the center of the waist, lined up with the shirt's buttons and the fly of the trousers. In colder climates, an outer coat will be needed. The kind of coat depends on the temperature. In milder climates, a light jacket would be sufficient. In colder areas, parkas or long coats would be more appropriate. If your job assignment requires that you work part of the shift inside and part of the shift outside, be sure to transfer your metal badge to the outer garment when you go outside and then back onto your shirt when you come inside. Uniform socks should always be black. If your trousers are a light or dark brown in color, dark brown or black socks are acceptable. White socks are never acceptable. Your duties usually require you to be on your feet for long periods of time. Therefore, shoe comfort is essential. There's nothing worse than having sore feet or sore legs as a result of bad shoes. Some security officers have given up the job after just a few days because of that. The truth is, their discomfort was not caused by the job, but by wearing the wrong shoes. Shoe style is important. As you know, one of the most comfortable shoes are tennis shoes. Unfortunately, they don't fit the image needed in the security industry. You can have the best looking uniform and be sharp as a tack, but if you have on a pair of sneakers, regardless of the color, you just lost it. Most professional security officer companies require plain black or dark brown shoes capable of being shined. These shoes can be low or high top styles. All of these are acceptable as long as they have a sheen capable of being shined. Now that we covered the basics in the uniforms, let's go over some of the equipment that you may be required to carry. Flashlight in a flashlight holder. Post keys in a key ring snap. Handcuffs in a handcuff case. Never tuck one side of the handcuff behind your belt line and the other hanging out over your trousers. Why? Handcuffs sometimes have a tendency to open, and if that happens under your trousers, you can imagine what can happen. Baton and baton holder. Two-way radio in its carrying case. Guard Tour wand. Cell phone. Keeping your cell phone in your pocket could be a problem if you need it right away. Pepper spray canister in a holder. Depending on the nature of your assignment, there may be other items. The baton is a defensive handheld impact weapon. Depending on which part of the country you're from, the name of this defensive weapon could be a baton or a nightstick. For the purpose of this training video, we will be referring to it as a baton. There are a variety of batons available from suppliers. Straight baton, T-type baton, metal expandable baton, also referred to as the ASP. Most states require that security officers pass a baton training class and are issued a baton license before they are allowed to carry one on duty. Check with your instructor regarding your state's regulations. The baton holder is worn on the belt to hold your baton when patrolling. If you're right-handed, the baton should be carried on the left side, and the reverse is true if you're left-handed. The reason for this is that when you remove the baton, it's done using a cross-sword action. It's important to remember that a baton is a defensive weapon. It's not an offensive weapon. It's used to protect you or someone else if attacked. There is no other purpose for it. Never walk around twirling your baton. It's unprofessional and the baton could fly up and hit you, causing serious injury. If you're assigned to a patrol car, remove the baton from the holder before getting into the vehicle. Prior to cell phones, the two-way radios and landline telephones were the only means of communication. For many security companies, the two-way radio is still the primary means of communication. To operate effectively, two-way radios require a direct line of sight from one radio to the other. The problem is that if there's something like a tall building or hills between them, then they become unusable. This is where the repeater systems come in. Repeaters have antennas mounted on a high building and towers. Repeaters give low voltage two-way radios and base stations a wider operational range and operate more efficiently. Using the line of sight, the dispatcher would transmit a message to the officer on posts. The message goes to the repeater first. The repeater boosts the wattage of the message signal and passes it on to the two-way radios on the posts. The same thing happens in reverse. You may not be able to communicate if you're in the basement of a large office building or in a valley because you're out of the line of sight. And also, two people cannot talk at the same time. Never patrol with your two-way radio in your hand or in your pocket. This is an accident waiting to happen. Always keep your radio in the radio case when you're not using them. Radios cost a lot of money. You don't want to have to buy one if you mishandle it. Cell phones require cellular networks and have a series of antennas on towers. They're typically on a steel pole that rise hundreds of feet in the air. Line of sight is still required, but as you travel, the cell phone signal gets handed off to the next closest tower. As you know, occasionally you run into dead spots. You may also have trouble in some basement areas unless they have a booster system. If you're right-handed, wear the radio on your right side and your baton on your left side. For left-handed officers, it's reversed. When you press the talk button, it takes a second or two for the repeater to engage. Always wait 2 seconds after you press the talk button before you start talking. If you don't, the first part of your message will be lost. All portable radios need a battery to power them. Batteries must be charged every day. To be sure you always have a fresh battery, at the end of your shift, depending on the charger, place the radio in the charger or take the battery out of the radio and charge it separately.